Good public health is a goal that many developing countries desire to achieve. However, the problem of poor sanitation drainage systems in Zambia has been overwhelming for quite a while now. And therefore, the Millennium Challenge Account Zambia is a company which was established under the laws of Zambia to implement the Lusaka water supply, sanitation and drainage project. Today on the program, we discuss the strides that Zambia has made in improving sanitation. Good afternoon and welcome to National Watch. I'm your presenter, Jacqueline Vukovic. And in the studio, I have two guests who include Mrs. Pamela Kasese-Walia, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Millennium Challenge Account Zambia. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jacqueline.
All right, and last but not the least is Mr. Stephen Marma, the Resident Country Director, Millennium Challenge Corporation. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Okay, so you too can be part of this program as we discuss the many strides that the country has made in improving sanitation, which affects each and every one of us. And so you'll be able to call us to ask relevant questions pertaining to this subject later on the program. So pay attention and you will be invited to call in. And so therefore, the Millennium Challenge Corporation's role in Zambia, maybe we can start by understanding that.
Sure. Maybe it's best that I start with that. Okay. The Millennium Challenge Corporation is a U.S. government agency. We actually just completed our 10th year anniversary, so we're a fairly new agency, and we're focused on economic development and reducing poverty in low-income countries like Zambia. Okay. And we have somewhat of a unique process where one is countries are selected for our grants based on a competitive process. Two, countries determine what their needs are and what their programs are. And three, countries are responsible for implementing the programs. So that's very briefly kind of how we're structured. And our money are grants to countries and limited to 5 years.
Okay.
So that is a very important point because after 5 years, if the programs are not finished, the funds return to the United States government, and then in this case, the Zambian government would be responsible for finishing all the activities that are not completed. So this is very unique amongst development agencies.
Okay. So what is unique about Zambia? I mean, when this project started, and what are the issues that the U.S. government looked at?
Sure. So in 2008, Zambia was selected for a compact amongst many countries, and we look at 20 independent indicators. So these are indicators from different sources, not from our agency, such as the World Bank, WHO, Freedom House, and they look at three broad areas: ruling justly, economic freedom, and then such issues as education, health, environment that we put together in investing in people. So based on those three broad areas, which include 20 indicators, countries compete amongst other low-income countries, and the better performing countries are eligible for a compact. Okay. And that's how Zambia was selected.
Okay, therefore, maybe I should turn to you as the Millennium Challenge Account Zambia. Yes. What have we done so far as a country? You know, sanitation is a very, very important issue that affects everyone in Zambia and the world over. So, I mean, what are those strides that we've made?
Yeah, perhaps maybe before we get to the strides, maybe I'll just talk about the importance of this project. And already you did allude to it when you started the program. I mean, water supply, sanitation, and drainage in this country is one of the constraints that we keep facing. And when you look at the infrastructure in most of the key sectors in this country, you find that most of it is inadequate. So similar in the water supply, sanitation and drainage, that was the problem that was identified by the government of Zambia. And when that was identified, obviously it was, we went through a process of identifying the projects that would actually be implemented with the support from the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And Obviously, there were other projects that were selected, but the water supply, sanitation and drainage project, when you looked at the benefits and the costs of doing it, you found out that there were a lot more benefits that would accrue to the Zambian people in terms of the health benefits that would come out, very little water-related diseases, obviously, when the project is implemented, and all these floods that we experienced during the rainy season, and also just the inadequate sanitation. So arising from that, what we've been doing in terms of ensuring that the project is done properly, we have done a lot of preparatory work in the area of developing the designs for the different projects that will be implemented in the water supply, sanitation and drainage. So for the last 2.5 years, we've been doing that, preparing these projects so that they are ready. Once the construction begins, there are no problems with the designs not being done correctly. And right now, we are in the process of actually procuring the works. And I'm sure if you've been reading in the papers, we have actually launched one of the key procurements on this project. And that is the rehabilitation of the main treatment plant in Kafiwe, which is referred to as the Iolanda. Yes. So perhaps I could talk about on the water supply side some of the key sub-projects that we're doing. So there's a treatment plant that is being rehabilitated and upgraded to its original capacity. Right now it's not operating, it's operating at 80% of its capacity. So we want to rehabilitate and upgrade it. And then there are also these distribution centers that are linked to the treatment plant. We have the Chilanga booster plant. There are these Stuart Park woodlands. All those are being rehabilitated to ensure that they start working well. And then we will also be installing water supply networks in new areas that do not have water right now. And these are some of the areas in Chipata Compound, SO East, Mutendere, Kamanga, and then some near the airport area, Kwamena and Vona Valley. So there will be new water supply networks in that particular area. And then we also want to reduce non-revenue water. You know, there's a lot of water which is not accounted for. Right now it's 46%. Okay. We want to reduce it to 25% at the end of the project. So there will be a lot of replacement of leaking pipes. All those inefficient distribution lines will be dealt with, and then there will be installation of prepaid meters as well. So that's in a nutshell on the water supply side. That's what we are doing. And then on the sanitation side, and since this is what you are interested in, we have let me just say two main projects that we're doing under this component. I do realize that much more needs to be done in the sanitation sector, but because of the resources that are limited, we are only going to rehabilitate or expand the Kaunda Square pond so that we can reduce the sewer outflows that happen in that area. And basically the ponds are not working as they're supposed to be working. And then we will be constructing sewer network in Mutendere, yeah, and obviously even water network in Mutendere so that we can move Mutendere away from pit latrines. They will be on waterborne systems. So those are the main sanitation projects that we're doing. But we know that the government, even through Lusaka Water and Sanitation, they are talking to other donors to actually put more money in the sanitation sector. Okay.
Interesting you must mention that. Obviously that's good news to a person that is watching us right now. But then are you working in conjunction with water utility companies? Because I mean, you mentioned that certain parts of the country, or is it Lusaka only, that will receive water that have never had water?
Yes.
Because I mean, water is one of the many headaches that the government has to deal with in as far as the provision of water is concerned. Do we see how fruitful will this be and how long? I mean, maybe we can look at that, the whole country, because we see every day people carrying buckets of water. So are you working with water utility companies?
We are in Lusaka because the project that we are working on is just looking at Lusaka city. And we are working with Lusaka Water and Storage Company as the company that will obviously, that provides the service, and after this project is done, after 5 years, it will be the responsibility of the water utility to ensure that whatever investment is done under this project is maintained. So basically they are our key partners. We refer to them as the key implementing entity in this project, and we have the Lusaka City Council as well because of the drainage component. So we basically have identified the needs for the city of Lusaka in terms of water supply and sanitation over a 25-year period. And in that investment master plan, we did look at what are the short-term, medium, and long-term priorities. We, as Millennium Challenge Account Zambia, were focusing on the short-term priorities. Those are the immediate ones. And we are basically trying to rehabilitate and upgrade the infrastructure which is already existing. In the medium term, obviously, we looked at setting up new treatment plants and other priority issues within that specific period. So this investment master plan, what is required, the total amount required over a 25-year period is over $3 billion for water supply and sanitation. For the short term, it was close to $700 million. We have going to spend $355 million on these short-term priorities that were identified. Yeah.
So even as you talk about the 5-year period, I hear you saying you're boosting capacity, isn't it?
Yes.
So do we see that changing in as far as, because you're working with the water utility companies, so do we see Lusaka seeing that it's a pilot project? Do we see it, giving people the water that they need? Do we see these water blues coming to an end?
Well, that's why we are doing this project. Obviously, we are looking at ensuring that obviously the access to water supply actually improves over this 5-year period and beyond, and also just the reliability of supply of this water to the citizens of Lusaka. As I said, the needs are really beyond what this compact is doing, but working with the government and the water utility and other cooperating partners, they are also looking at financing some of those components that were identified in the investment master plan that I talked about. But definitely, we see that the number of hours that the people of Lusaka will be receiving water each day is supposed to increase. Yeah, and the different sources of water, especially for these peri-urban areas. I mean, they obviously walk long distances to go and collect water. I mean, in Mutendere, for example, they have kiosks and they have to walk to, and very early in the morning, they queue up around 5 to draw water. Obviously, we don't expect that after this project is done because we are going to supply household water connections. Yeah, so obviously that will be a key benefit for those people. They'll have time freed for them to do other things apart from just collecting water.
Okay. Now, Mr. Mama, do we see a chance of renewal after the 5-year contract?
Sure. One is, if I just can answer one of your previous questions first, is there is a group of cooperating partners that focuses on rural and urban water and water as a natural resource. So this group meets regularly and is very much invested throughout the country in addressing the water and sanitation needs. So I want to highlight that fact. And the Millennium Challenge Corporation is part of that group. To your question regarding a second compact, again, our focus is for 5 years, and then we're very much focused on results and working closely with the Zambian government to achieve those results in this period. And then some countries have received a second compact, and this largely depends on the performance of those 20 indicators that I mentioned. So a country has to continue to perform well on those indicators, and also it has to implement its first compact well. So those are two key factors that determine if a country can get a second compact, and also the amount of resources that we have available as a government agency. And based on our policies, the country is not eligible for a second compact until 18 months before the end of the compact. So at this time, Zambia won't even be considered because we have to wait and see how the implementation of this compact goes.
Now, 2008, are you happy so far? Because I know Mrs. Walia said, you know, they are improving capacity here in Zambia, but so far?
Yes, again, this is a I mean, it's a very involved process, as you can imagine. And I think what Pamela highlighted were these master plans. So this was really the first part of the engagement with the Zambian government, and essentially the part of country-led solutions and identifying needs based on the Zambian people. And this is where master plans were developed for water, sanitation, and drainage. And really, there hasn't been a significant investment in infrastructure in these areas for close to 30 years. So you can imagine the status of all the infrastructure, the pipes, the pumps, and things like that that need to be replaced and upgraded and expanded to meet the demands of Lusaka. So really based on this master plan and working closely with the Zambian people and the Zambian government in partnership with the United States government, these master plans were developed, and as Pamela mentioned, we're implementing part of that. But already several donors are working with Lusaka Water and Sewage Company to provide additional water and sanitation projects. So that's, I think, a very good sign, and people recognize that need. And one simple indicator regarding Lusaka Water's performance. This year they moved from the 6th to the 2nd best performing utility in Zambia. So I think that's an indicator of, again, that they are improving, but I think we all know that there's still more work to be done.
Okay, so the Millennium Challenge, I mean, your focus right now in Zambia is to do with water. But I mean, there's so many other towns in the country, obviously, that are in dire need of, you know, not just water, but different other services like, you know, needs like education, you know. Why did you pick on that? And why Lusaka?
Sure. Again, this is really not our decision. This is the government of Zambia's decision. So that's one thing very unique about our program. Our funds are not earmarked. They're not required to go to any one project. So we do not have to invest in education or health or water. It's left to the country to determine that, but based on a sound analysis, looking at the benefits and the costs. So ultimately, we want to see a benefit to a large number of people, and that this is an economic benefit to those people. And ultimately, there were several other projects that were identified throughout this process by the Zambian government. And we have limited resources, as the agency does. So in the end, the government has to choose and prioritize where to put those resources. And in this case, it was in water, sanitation, and drainage in Lusaka.
Okay. You wanted to add something?
Well, no, just to emphasize the point that it's country-driven, and Steve talked about that. So one of the things that you do as a government is to identify the projects that you'd like the Millennium Challenge Corporation to finance, obviously based on a certain criteria. And one of the criteria is what I referred to earlier, and Steve has talked about on the economic benefits. Is it worth it to invest in this particular project? How many people are going to benefit from this project? And are we going to minimize costs compared to the benefits as well? And that's why this project was selected. I mean, we had other projects in roads, tourism development, and energy. But when the government of Zambia obviously they prioritized this, but when it went to MCC, they also applied their criteria, and because of limited resources, we ended up just having the Lusaka water supply and drainage project selected for support by the Millennium Challenge Corporation. I mean, the process was very consultative. I mean, we involved government institutions, the non-government organizations, the private sector, in actually identifying these projects and going through the analysis that Steve talked about, which was referred to as a constraints analysis, and basically looking at factors which have been constraining growth in this country. And as I mentioned, infrastructure is one of the key binding constraints in this economy, just not in water, but in roads and tourism. So water was finally selected.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I hope you have understood what the Millennium Challenge is. And so therefore, we invite you to make your contributions and comments on this program by calling us on 253025. 253025. You can make your comments and your contributions. And my guests in the studio are Mrs. Pamela Kasese-Bwalya, the Chief Executive Officer, Millennium Challenge Account Zambia, Zambia, and Mr. Steve Marma, who is the resident country director at Millennium Challenge Corporation. And today we are discussing the strides that Zambia has made in improving sanitation. And so you mentioned that you're working with the Lusaka Water and Sewage Company. So much as you, improve the capacity of the infrastructure, what will be their role? Or are you also incorporating the aspect of human resource in this case?
Yeah, we are. Let me just talk about one other component. I mean, the project focuses on two main aspects. I mean, there's infrastructure development, which we have referred to on the water and sanitation side. And then we have a component called institutional strengthening. And under that component, we are providing technical assistance to the Lusaka Water and Storage Company. So we are going to improve the capacity of Lusaka Water in environmental management, and then also in asset management, I think, which is a very important aspect of any water utility. Because what has happened in the past is that you have all this infrastructure, which obviously needs to be maintained properly to ensure that there is obviously sustainability of any investment that is put in that sector. So we are working closely with the water utility in that area. We are also working in the area of quality management as well. I mean, those are some of the areas where obviously, as you said, I mean, the services that are provided are inadequate, but obviously there are many factors. Infrastructure is one of them, but there are other things that the utility is dealing with to improve customer service as well. And we are also looking at the component of gender mainstreaming. Yeah, so those are the areas that we are working with the utility, because we do appreciate and understand that you just don't focus on infrastructure. I mean, you build this infrastructure. What happens when it is built? You need to obviously focus on the other softer issues of the utility company. So we have, in fact, an agreement where we are focusing on these key aspects that I've referred to on the technical side, operational side, quality side, and monitoring key milestones to ensure that the utility keeps improving. I mean, they've been doing very well, but our focus is to ensure that we sustain and improve the quality of services that are being provided by the utility.
And you mentioned gender mainstreaming in relation to water sanitation?
Yes, it is. Well, it's very important. I mean, water, I mean, if you look at water is life, and most of the people that are involved in water-related issues are women and children. And there are a number of factors, and they're vulnerable as well. So you want to ensure that gender issues and concerns are actually incorporated in the plans that Lusaka Water is coming up with, even in terms of just the tariff structure for the vulnerable. How is the utility going to deal with this issue so that everyone has access to water? And there are several other issues. For example, what we've heard before is that even where you locate a water kiosk, for example, is very important for women. I mean, the height and all these things. And we just like to ensure that Lusaka Water and Storage Company understands all these issues, because there have been instances where certain water kiosks have been located in certain areas and women don't go there because of cultural barriers. So all those issues are being addressed in our program.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Marma, you know, there is the Bombay drainage. Maybe you'd like to tell us more about that?
Sure. And also just to re-emphasize the point on sustainability, especially since our program is limited to 5 years, it is very important to work with these institutions, as you mentioned, to ensure the sustainability not only of our investments in infrastructure, but of others. So that you don't have a repetitive process where you have to put in new pipes or repair pipes frequently and replace pumps. So this is really a sound investment model in the long and medium term for the Lusaka Water. And regarding, yes, the drainage program was a component that was added toward the end of the compact development, and essentially was a very strong need expressed here by the government regarding flooding and how it's affected many people along the Bombay drainage area. But also that is what's considered a primary drain. So there are other drains that feed into that drain. And so we're increasing the capacity of that drain to disperse water and remove water from that main area. So not only should it benefit people along the Bombay drain, but other secondary drains that feed into that. And also, you may have seen the Lusaka City Council is in the process of making improvements throughout the city to line existing drains and improve the flow of water there and reduce flooding, which affects both businesses because they're damaged by flooding, and individual homes also are affected by flooding. And also then there's some health benefits from that also.
Yeah. Okay. And you know, when you mentioned the different residential areas that will directly benefit from this project, Kanyama was not included, and I'm wondering why.
Yeah, let me get back to the master plans and obviously the prioritization that took place. For the drainage component, we did what we called identification of interventions that would be required in the flood-prone areas, and that was done. Kanyama was included, and we came up with some estimated costs, and going through the process of prioritization and looking at how long it would take us to implement this project. It's a 5-year project, and it's fixed, as Steve talked about. So we considered a number of factors and felt that Kanyama needed much more work for us to actually move into that area. More studies needed to be done. If you hear about Kanyama, I mean, people talk about the underground water. There's a lot. I mean, you have to look at a comprehensive study looking at the groundwater in that area, and then also just looking at it when there's the rainy season, this runoff water. How do you now come up with an intervention that addresses the problem in Kanyama? And it was felt that it would take much longer than the 5-year period that was anticipated. But then we also agreed then that we would do what we are calling an investment drainage master plan that would actually document even what is required to be done in Kanyama itself. So it's part of the program that we'll be doing under the compact, is to develop the drainage master plan. So really it's the limitation of funds and ensuring that the right interventions are identified for that particular area. You've seen even just for in other areas where, obviously there have been outcries of saying we need drainages here and drains are done, but because they're not properly done, there's actually more flooding instead of reducing the flooding. So that is why it is important to have a drainage master plan that identifies the problems first and what needs to be done.
Now, in your assessment in 2008, Lusaka is growing, and you know, drainage is one of the many issues that needs urgent attention, because this is an old drainage model, and obviously, I'm wondering, have you looked at the long-term plan of, because the population as well keeps on growing because of the rural-urban migration. So what kind of benefit do the people expect in the long term because of after this project?
In terms of is it drainage or the entire project?
The entire project, and I'm focusing now on the drainage system, because Lusaka really has an old drainage system.
Yeah, I just referred to what I was calling a study that will be done for the city of Lusaka. We're going to do an investment drainage master plan, and it will be similar to what we've done for water supply and sanitation. It's over a 25-year period, identifying what needs to be done immediate, medium and long term. And hopefully, as we do that, we are obviously going to take into account all these things that you're talking about, the population growth rates, and also the recent models that would obviously help to reduce the flooding, and also just the design of the drains. I mean, most of the drains here, they are not lined, they are not strengthened. They're basically not engineered to meet the required needs, even the flows of water. So we are hoping that with this investment master plan on drainage, we will address all these issues.
All right. Yeah. And we have our very first caller on the line. Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to National Watch.
Within Lusaka, I'm Mr. London Makeni area.
Okay. Please go ahead with your question or contribution.
The first question, there's two questions. The first question is, first of all, you have mentioned that water, it will be improved after 5 years. and you have seen the challenges of water at the moment. Women and other people are queuing at the kiosk because water is coming slowly. So I want the response from water section. Coming to the drainage, here, I'm just around the corner of Kanyama. People are crying and the rain is around the corner. Have you seen that in Kanyama, like January, February? People moving with gunboats, sweeping in the water. The drainage, there's one drainage from Sebo up to going to Cafe Flat. That drainage, it can't manage to draw all the water in Kanyama. So I don't know whether the plan, as you are talking there, the plan which we have here in Kanyama, particularly with Kuku compound in Chawama, these two compounds are already much more flooded during the rain season. So I want a big response from you.
Okay, thank you very much. Two questions there. Water supply and drainage?
Drainage, I'll just come back to what I explained earlier. And Kanyama obviously is a priority area for improving drainage. And as I mentioned, much more needs to be done. I mean, to study exactly what the problem is. I know that there have been interventions that have been done before in terms of like short-term interventions to just reduce the amount of water there. But the problem is much bigger. You need to know what is happening to the groundwater. You need to know what happens to the surface water. And also just looking at the way the area is, obviously it's a very densely populated area, and to come up with that, to put up drainage in that area, obviously there'll be a lot of people being moved around. So a lot of planning in terms of movement of people and actually implementing the project itself. It is really a priority of government, and they have prioritized that. But I think what we're trying to do through Millennium Challenge Accounts is to provide a documented study that shows exactly what the problems are in Kanyama and what are the required interventions. So it is prioritized. Yeah, that's what I can say. But it's not being done under this project in terms of doing the actual construction of the drains, but the study is being done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the role of the other utilities that you're working with is Lusaka City Council.
Yes.
And I mean, they have tried their best to serve the people of Lusaka, but again, are we also looking at capacity building and, you know?
Yes. Do you want to take that one?
Sure,
yeah.
Yes. Again, that's a key part of the long-term sustainability of our investment and other investments. Yeah. And you know, Lusaka City Council is essentially somewhat different. It's a political body, but it has technical people that are very strong in that body, where Lusaka Water and Sewage Company is utility. So each one has its strengths, and what we're looking at working with Lusaka City Council is also part of the environmental management, addresses these issues with drainage, but also to touch on and help them look at municipal planning. And that's something I think a lot of people comment on. And you know, if they build houses, people build houses in certain areas where roads or drains should be, that causes problems, increased costs of putting a drain in. So all these things are not uncommon to a local government, and they need to be responsible for addressing these issues, and we're working with them to address that.
Okay. So apart from, you know, drainages, apart from refuse collection, environmental...
also, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What other issues are you trying to help them, you know, ensure that they offer a quality service to people?
And maybe I can answer the gentleman's first question,
sure.
and then come back to that. So he asked about the kiosks, and...
okay, just hold that thought. We have another caller on the line. Good afternoon.
Sure, we should.
Okay. All right. Continue calling us. The number is 253025. 253025 gets you through to the program. Okay.
Sure. So the gentleman asked about the kiosks, where mostly women and children line up to get their water in communities that don't have access to water in their homes. And sometimes people can wait over an hour and then have to carry that water quite a distance back to their home. So not only is it a time problem and people waste time, children are out of school, but it's also a risk then the water becomes contaminated. If you see how people can carry that water back home, often it's in open containers, dirty containers, so that's a health risk also to that population. So for example, in Mutendere, one of our projects is to install treated water throughout the community and provide household connections.
Okay,
So-
we have another caller on the line. Good afternoon.
All right. My contribution is the 10% in the Millennium Challenge account. I'm made to believe that the 10% is actually meant for initiatives around the water sector, water sanitation programs. What is the explanation governing that if we have to benefit from these programs in areas such as Kabombo of North-Eastern Province? This is Kasoka Patrick.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so anyone can take that?
Okay, well, I didn't really get the question, but I think he's talking about other areas. And basically, this project is focusing on improving water supply, sanitation, and drainage in Lusaka. It was prioritized by the government to start with, but that doesn't mean that the government doesn't appreciate the other water problems in the other areas in the country. Yeah. And then just coming back to the question that you talked about on what other things we're doing with Lusaka City Council to improve service provision. We have another, related to drainage is the issue of just solid waste management in the city. And everywhere you go, you find garbage everywhere. Even these new drains that are being constructed by government. I mean, after a few months, you see a lot of litter there, people throwing bottles, plastics, everything is there. So we have an innovation grants that is part of what the institutional strengthening component of the project, and we will be providing competitive grants to innovators that will come through and propose ways of actually dealing with solid waste management in Lusaka. This will definitely assist in improving obviously the lifespan of the drains, also just the efficiency of ensuring that the drains actually drain the water. Because what happens now is the drains will be there, but they have all this garbage and they are blocked basically, so they don't serve the purpose for which they are built for. So we have been working closely with, obviously Lusaka City Council is very interested, it's a big problem for them, but also working with the private sector and other non-governmental organizations. We have explained what the Millennium Challenge Account Zambia would like to do in this area. We'll be inviting for innovations in this area, and in fact we've already put up a call for proposals in this area, concept papers, and the advert is running, I think closed on 28th November. And we are hoping that through this we will be able to assist the Lusaka City Council with ways of actually improving solid waste management in the city of Lusaka.
An important part of this is that we have a little over $6 million available for grants to both private and community groups and NGOs to submit their proposals and through a competitive process be selected to implement those.
Okay, and now when we talk about water supply, sanitation, drainages, have you included the component of the local people? I mean, sensitization, because when you talk about drainage system, even after the government has, done the drainages, you see people still throwing litter there, and, it's a whole spiral of, issues there.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. It's very important, and we've learned from other initiatives that have been implemented in the country, and just from MCC as an organization, they have seen that you need to engage the people, and one of the key components of our program is really engagement with the key stakeholders throughout the process of development and implementation of the project. And we have a plan in place that we're working on with the various stakeholders. But specifically, we have identified a key aspect of this project, that is information, education, and communication. IEC will be very important during the entire project, especially implementation, and we will be actually having a consultant working with us to ensure that we have the right messages to engage the people in the various areas that we'll be working, to ensure that they do understand and appreciate the importance of the investment going there, and ensuring that they are the ones maintaining the investment, because we will not be there to do that for them. So it's a key message is really to involve the people and ensure that the message that we are delivering are coming from the people themselves. So we are working closely with them.
So how soon do we see that happening? Because a lot of times people don't look after these the infrastructure, and there's a lot of ignorance in as far as sanitation issues are concerned. So maybe a time frame?
Yeah, there's a time frame. In fact, we are launching the procurement before the end of this year. So we're hoping by next year we will begin doing, the consultant will be on board working with these communities, identifying the messages that we would actually be disseminating to these people. But besides that, even just during the compact development process and the implementation as well, we've engaged the community. We've told them about what this project is all about, what is required from them, so that we work together and ensure that this investment is implemented on time and is sustainable after the project has been completed.
Okay. And now sustainability is one thing in any project.
Yeah.
So far, Mr. Mama, maybe you can highlight the other projects that the U.S. government has dealt with, particularly in Africa.
Sure. And I think you've done an excellent job highlighting some of the key components of sustainability that here in Lusaka and our program include the actual infrastructure, working with institutions like Lusaka Water Sewage Company and Lusaka City Council, and also then the outreach and communication with the beneficiaries, with the communities. So really you need all three of those to have success in sustainability. And other projects, we've had both infrastructure and institutional strengthening and education programs in Mozambique, where I was before coming in here for several years. So we worked actually with a very large number of government institutions, 16, which was actually, to be honest, a little bit too much. That requires quite a bit of coordination. But there also we did infrastructure for roads and water and sanitation. And then we go back and we also do an impact evaluation. So we look very closely at, once all the works are complete and also our work with those institutions are complete, then we look at the impact of that. So is there a change to the livelihood of those targeted people compared to other areas where we're not working?
Okay. We have another caller on the line. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Your name
Afternoon, Jacqueline.
Okay.
Afternoon, Mrs. Walia and Mr. Mama. This is a lovely topic. I, for one, appreciate it. I'm calling from Chalala. Are you considering also Chalala Township to work on the water? Because right now our boreholes have dried up. You have to move around to draw water from the neighborhood. If you can hear, it's so sympathetic. We've built nice mansions, but we have no water in our houses. Please do something. Otherwise, the topic is very, very nice. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that question. Chalala, I talked about the main treatment plant in Kafiwe that is being rehabilitated and upgraded. And the Woodlands area is supplied by that line from Kafiwe. And obviously with the rehabilitation of the treatment plant and then also the reduction of the non-revenue water that we're talking about from 45 to 25, we're hoping that we're going to have more water in the system, and then we'll be able to supply these areas in Chalala and other new upcoming areas with more water. I think that's the strategy of Lusaka Water and Storage Company. But I'm aware that also Lusaka Water and Storage Company is developing a plan to ensure that all these new areas are covered. But definitely the rehabilitation of the treatment plant in Kafiwe will help to reduce all these water blues in some of these areas.
One important part of this is Lusaka Water supplies 60% of its water from boreholes,
Yes.
and the other 40% from Kafui. So right now, a significant amount of those boreholes are dry and affecting water delivery here. So there's no short-term solution, I mean, just to be honest. And we're working on a near-term solution. And then there are other investments coordinating with Lusaka Water to increase additional supply from Kafui. So I think over the next several years, communities will see a benefit. And also another key part is non-revenue water. As Pamela mentioned earlier, approximately a little less than 50% of the water is lost, either through commercial losses or leakage. So we have a significant investment to improve that and reduce that to 25%.
Okay. Now, obviously, the demand for water is increasing as the population grows, because you just mentioned, you know, the boreholes. You know, every day people are drilling, and you know, obviously, this has a negative impact on the environment as well as, you know, the water tables. So maybe is there a component addressing that?
That's a much broader issue, but it is also an issue that needs to be addressed under the compact, and that's really a broader policy issue that this government needs to address. Essentially right now, I think people know that individual boreholes with the city growing are increasing, and there's really no regulation that has been implemented to monitor that or even to charge a fee for accessing that water. So largely individuals then don't control the usage of that water. There's no incentive to use a minimum amount other than your electric bill. Where if you get water from the utility, you have to pay a fee for the quantity of water you use. So there is an incentive to control the amount of water you use.
Okay. You want to add?
No, I think he said it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, you know, as we look at, you know, water supply, there are issues to do with sanitation. Again, my focus would be on, you know, the education still. Because when you look at rural areas and, you know, different residential areas in Lusaka, they still need for, you know, sensitization on the way they dispose of their waste. You know, so are you looking at that as well?
Yeah, we are doing that. It's obviously we do appreciate. I mean, as I mentioned before, there are cultural barriers as well. I mean, people don't feel comfortable disposing certain things in a certain way in these areas, and in Mutendere we know, I mean, it will be the first time that we will be putting up a waterborne system. I mean, they've been using pit latrines, they've been throwing whatever they use in those pit latrines. Now, if they have toilets in their houses, obviously they need to be educated on the importance of disposing waste in a certain way. Otherwise, those toilets will not function for a long time. And we have been developing a plan specifically for Mutendere, the one we're calling Sanitation Connection Action Plan. And one of the aspects that we'll be dealing with will be the same issue of information, education, and communication, but working together with the other consultants that I talked about that will be launched before the end of this year. So that plan is in place. We will obviously begin implementation once it is completed, but it's a key aspect of this project. If that is not done, we all are aware that there will be no sustainability of this investment, and changing behavior of people obviously is very critical, and it's one of the things that we have incorporated in this model. And I know that MCC, working with other compacts in other countries, to recognize the importance of behavioral change, especially in the area of sanitation. And MCC has done quite a number of water and sanitation projects in other countries as well.
Okay, and maybe we can now look at the challenges as we go on in this project. Are there any challenges so far, or it's just going on smoothly?
And definitely, that's why it's called a challenge. I mean, if it was simple, I mean, we would not be discussing this topic, but obviously, that's why this project is there, to address some of those challenges that we've talked about in the different areas of water supply, sanitation, and drainage. I mean, it's a key development issue for most developing countries. And the reason why, obviously, MCC was set up was to assist with dealing with some of these challenges in developing countries, and they have a specific model that they developed to ensure that maybe the delivery of assistance will help in dealing with some of these challenges. And you heard Steve talk about the 5-year time frame being fixed. I mean, you don't go beyond 5 years. And that's, well, for me, I think that it's a very, obviously, ambitious target. I mean, dealing with such a big project within 5 years. But I think the model by MCC is to ensure that after 5 years, there's transformation in a particular sector where they work. And in this particular sector where we are working, we are hoping that by after 5 years, there will be a key transformation in the water, sanitation, and drainage sector. We are seeing that already with other cooperating partners coming on board to assist in dealing with other challenges in the sector and just our project. So it's like it's providing the leverage for other donors to come in the private sector as well. And obviously 5 years is a challenge for us as MCA Zambia. We have to make sure that we meet that challenge and make sure that we spend $355 million in 5 years. And the model that has been put together of implementing this project, MCA Zambia being fully staffed, working with the key implementing entities, we are hoping that we will definitely overcome this challenge of 5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if I can just add one point to that too. I think this challenge in completing the compact in 5 years also has led to a very excellent partnership with the government of Zambia, and we have full support from the Minister of Finance and others, our board, to help address very challenging issues, some such as land acquisition, others as far as payment of arrears. So I would say that this government has been very supportive in helping address these challenges.
All right. Okay, so I'm afraid we have to end right here. And well said. And I feel, I hope that you will achieve your set out goals in the next 5 years, because I mean it is a mammoth task. And I'd like to thank you for quoting us time.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we've come to the end of the program. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to you, the viewers, for calling on the program. And thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the programs.